Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another Show Me How You Practice video. Now, I'm not going to keep following that thread of astrology just because I know it can be extremely challenging to really dive into in a way that would help explain how everything works and how everything comes together. I may pick it back up in the future and kind of perhaps make it almost like a series like I did with the tarot and things of that nature, just to kind of share other information and things that have helped me connect a little bit deeper with astrology and how I use it in my day-to-day life. Today I wanted to talk about a clarity practice, so to speak. I think that is the best way to describe it, if that makes sense. I don't really know how else to what else to call it or how else I would describe it. A lot of us go into intuitive work because we want to have a sense of connection, understanding, or even just feel a little bit more aligned with the things that are happening in our lives, with what's going on. Maybe a lot of it can kind of come down to a sense of figuring out what our purpose is and what we're supposed to be doing here on Earth. And I think a lot of us kind of come to intuitive work or the metaphysical or the occult studies because we feel like maybe we've been let down in some way by the more traditional religious routes that are offered to us in society. I know that's kind of how my story went. I haven't really talked about it too much, I don't think, on here. But when I was about 18, 19, I walked away from the church. I just felt very disappointed by a lot of things. I was raised very strict Roman Catholic, as most Hispanic people are. And I, was super involved in the church growing up and things of that nature. And while I have maintained certain things from church that really speak to me and are more of an individualistic sort of way for me to practice, such as I love working with Mother Mary or La Virgen de Guadalupe. I think that it's such a beautiful, loving presence and energy that it is still something that is always going to have a space in my home, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing. I have an altar set up for her, so to speak. I, use candles on her saint day, things of that nature. So I am still very deeply connected to her energy, and I love having her energy in my space and in my home. And I still pray. I have rosaries, things of that nature. They're just things that feel comforting and are a way for me to have a sense of connection as well. So with the clarity practice, I think a lot of us, when we are in, not to say crisis, but maybe in the middle of making a decision or making a choice or being presented with different options, a lot of us want to have a clear way of understanding, what should I do next, and what should I, focus on, or where will this decision lead me? And cards are a great way for you to have some guidance. And again, the cards to me, in essence, cannot predict the future. They essentially can kind of just give you guidance as to what energies may be coming up and how you may process those energies, or what things may be presented to you. And ultimately, it's really up to us to choose. We always have free will at all moments. Just like with your intuition, there's been plenty of times where I have not listened to my intuition, or I have gone against what I felt was what my intuition was telling me because of my own regular, real human things that were kind of playing into a situation. And I've just come to kind of regret not going with that initial intuitive hit. And it's not that there's been a lack of clarity. It's more of, again, I have free will. I, am the master of my own domain, so to speak. And our guides can essentially say, hey, here's a map. But if you want to walk off trail, that's on you, girl. And I've just kind of come to accept that as I've gotten older, that I am a very stubborn person. And sometimes I'm just going to keep doing whatever I feel I should be doing. But I wanted to kind of talk about certain things you can do to gain a little bit more clarity, to feel a little bit more connected. Because I do get this question a lot, like, how do I know it's my intuition? How do I know, like, this is like what is actually coming through? How do I, like, trust it a little bit more? And as someone that is kind of a natural skeptic by nature, it's hard at times to, receive a message that maybe isn't positive or isn't going to, perhaps give you the guidance that you thought you were going to be receiving, or give you kind of a sense of like, oh, that's not how that's going to work out, or, oh, the situation has changed. Because again, remember, we all have free will. So while a situation may have been initially beneficial for you in some way, shape, or form, things are constantly in flux. Things are constantly changing. And so there is this like having to take a moment to kind of check the pulse on things, so to speak. And we have to be very aware of what that looks like moving forward, and how that feels. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that kind of help me feel a little bit more connected and allow me to feel a little bit more in alignment with gaining clarity, with having a better understanding. Now, one of the things is I love to do little artistic things. I like to write. I like to kind of write quotes and things like that. This is just kind of a collage and a cutout of all of the different things that I've done with my own personal journaling. I do write a lot and things like that. This doesn't really have a lot in the front, I don't think. It's been a while since I've looked in here. But what I do like to do is to also have like a sense of doing like a to-do list for myself, so that it helps me feel a little bit more connected. Sorry, I have ash everywhere. So it helps me feel a little bit more connected to what my goal is. So I like to kind of do these little plan things. So this is like my content one that I did. And I just kind of tried to do like hey, this is what I want to focus on. So to me, I think the first thing that you need to do when you feel like you're lacking clarity is maybe write down, like, what is your ultimate goal? Like, what is it that you would like? What is it that is ideal for you? What is it that maybe you've been really wanting to focus on? And kind of move on from there. Another thing is that I really like to learn. I like to be in a very open mood as far as like really figuring out like who I am, what speaks to me, things of that nature, and just being very mindful of those energies. I'm trying to see. I had like, oh, okay. So I have things like this where when I'm trying to write down or figure out like what it is that I'm trying to do with my life, is that I have my own personal values, and I've kind of sat down and I've written them down. And these are the things that, above all else, these are the things I will always try to prioritize in all that I do. This is with work. This is with creativity. This is with connections. This is with, the relationships in my life, how I do the work that I'm doing. It is very much these are my personal values. So I kind of sat down and I identified what matters the most to me to help me continue to grow. And, I think a lot of us have maybe it's hard for us to kind of sit down and be like, okay, what should I be doing regardless of what society expects or what my family expects or what other people in my life kind of have, placed upon me as far as like what they think I should be doing. If you have an understanding of like who you are, what you want, what you value, what really truly speaks to you, it makes it a lot easier for you to align yourself with these things. And so I think having a sense of your own personal values, and they don't have to be like mine, they can be different, and they can be, completely different than anything I've written on here. I try to create my life out of these things. And that is exactly what I've been trying to really focus and align myself with in all areas of my life. Now, once I kind of have understanding of my personal values, then I have a better understanding of what I'm trying to do with that. So because a lot of my personal values are talking about cooperation, honesty, kindness, gentleness, wisdom, unity, really trying to share different things with others. That's why I have been doing a lot of these things on YouTube. Even if like a lot of people don't watch this, I don't care. It'll be up there. So the right people, whenever they're seeking out guidance or answers, maybe they'll find my videos and find something that is of benefit for them in the things that I'm sharing. And so it helped me kind of figure out how I will make my content based on like those values and on those things. Other things is same thing whenever I'm like pulling cards, it's like I want to be very honest with myself and I want to be clear. So whenever we are reaching for our cards or, things like that. And I think, let me just kind of like side quest here for a second. As a person who reads, I've always encountered other people that are also tarot readers, card readers, intuitives, whatever. And then they feel like it's hard for them to read for themselves. And I think it's not that it's hard. I think that it's challenging to remain objective like we do with a client or with a querent or with someone that comes to us and wants guidance and advice. A lot of us don't know how to remain objective in our own personal situations. And I think that's where the challenge really lies for a lot of us. So even because I'm a human and I have, my moon and my Venus in Cancer, I'm a little squishy thing when it comes to my own feelings and emotions. I know that it can be very hard to be objective. And that's why I like to journal when I'm using my cards or using a spread or kind of sitting with myself and, kind of talking about what do I have going on. So I thought this one had my journaling in here, but I guess not. Maybe it's my other one. So I have like my journaling. Yeah. So this is like my little journaling one. I have a lot of these little happy planners. And I think they're great. So one of the things I was doing back in 2022, when I was a little bit more focused on my tarot studies and stuff like that, was I would sit down at the beginning of the year, pull a card for each of the months, and then I would journal it out. And so for February of this year, I had kind of done this or whatever. For January, I had done, kind of sitting, and then I would have like my reflections. Having an understanding of the cards, of what was going on, it's really helped me continue this practice in a way that feels more organic for me. Same thing whenever I do a tarot spread that maybe I'm like, what am I doing or what's going on with my life? I don't know why this is like stuck. Then I can kind of sit with myself on things. And as here, you can kind of just see. And I try to go back and reflect on what I've learned, what I'm seeing, what I've noticed. Same thing with this. It's like, it's just nice to have that reflection period. And these things of being able to kind of come back and try to be very objective about what I'm reading or what's going on without really going off on the emotionality, I guess we'll say, of trying to make a decision or trying to kind of gain clarity. Because it's like, the more you're like, I need to get clear on things, the more challenging it can be. And one of the things is that we cannot make a change if we are comfortable. So whenever we feel uncomfortable, that's when we feel like we're ready to make a change, or we feel like something has to change, because again, we are creatures of comfort. We will always try to do whatever we can to make our lives comfortable, to kind of connect in those ways, versus being a little bit more aware of what's going on within ourselves. We are just going to be those that are just going to be constantly kind of moving into this energy. So I have like notes from readings that I've had with people, which is nice. And just things like that. So it's just really significant for us to kind of like connect with ourselves. And it's interesting because you know, having my cards of the year already kind of written out from last year, I can tell you it was like so many different things happened to me in 2024. And it's like, okay, I totally see, you know, like what happened, you know, in September, I had the devil reversed and drama. I was working at a place and I was in the middle of trying to quit. And I decided not to go with my gut. And then they ended up, you know, letting me go October, like 1st or 2nd or something of that year. So it's interesting because then it was like, then I had the sun and optimism for myself. So it's almost like saying like, you know, I needed to kind of release and kind of move forward. Same thing with November. It was like strength and peace. That's when I decided to kind of do my own thing and start another business and do whatever. December, you know, I have the King of Pentacles and driver. It was very much a reminder of like, I'm in the driver's seat. I get to kind of take control of the situation here. So there is a lot of this kind of energy that now in hindsight, I have an understanding of. So that's also a big tool in my clarity practice, is that I go back and I see, oh, okay, that's how this relates to this. That's what was going on with this. This is where I may have misread this energy. So it's been a very interesting thing, because I also always take a lot of notes when I'm doing like my readings with other people, that people like I, you know, will do readings for. Doing things like this where I kind of journal my own, or I was doing weekly kind of tarot spreads and stuff like that, and trying to just have like a little bit of an understanding of like, how am I clearly seeing this? How am I reading this? These sort of exercises, as much as they may feel like they're a little bit overwhelming, or they may feel like, well, what's the point? You know, I read the cards, I got the message. Having a way to reflect also helps you in being able to see more clearly in the future. And I think that's where a lot of us tend to kind of forget, that it's equally important for us to have something that we're reflecting on and can kind of grow from. You know, and asking yourself these like hard questions. I love doing shadow work challenges that require a lot of you really confronting questions that maybe feel very uncomfortable and having to kind of sit with yourself. These are all a part of being able to see things much clearer and having a deeper understanding of what your, you know, intuition is really telling you and what's going on with that energy. So, I think it's very interesting, because I think, you know, again, if we are in a space where we feel very comfortable, we're not going to do anything to disrupt that most often. A lot of us are not here to kind of disrupt that sort of energy, and that isn't always something that's going to serve us. So when I'm like pulling my cards, and if I'm like, okay, I just kind of want to get some clarity on stuff, or I don't really know where things are going, if I feel very confused about things, I'm not just going to pull nilly-willy. I'm going to make sure I have a specific spread so that I cannot misconstrue stuff. I'm going to write the cards down. I can't even like shuffle these today. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing everything within my power to be as clear as possible for myself, with myself. And again, you may still miss something. You may still misread something, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there is no right or wrong way to read your cards and to do your thing. And I'm going to apologize if this video is dark. It's actually like 8 o'clock in the morning here, but I don't know why it looks so overcast. But, you know, pulling cards there's a story, right? And I think a lot of us, sometimes we get so stuck on like, well, the meaning of this card is, instead of how does this relate to what's going on in my life? You know, if I'm just like pulling random cards here, you know, how can I like, what is the story here? Because I can read each card individually, but what does that mean overall? How does this relate to what is going on with me? What is standing out to me? What is it that maybe I'm not seeing quite so clearly in my own life, that maybe I'm struggling with, that maybe I need my guides to kind of give me a big O like LED light kind of sign telling me this is what comes next, this is what you need to do. And so I think by having a clarity practice in the sense of how do you get clear first, whether that's, doing the spiritual work in the sense of ensuring your energy is grounded and rooted in yourself instead of everything else. So whenever I am in the middle of a lot of like big shifts, a lot of challenges, a lot of like feeling very confused and things like that, I try to do what I need to do with myself first. So one of the things I will start with is ensuring my space is clean and clear energetically and physically, which is not always easy. I'm a little bit of a chaos goblin a lot of the time. My desk especially always gets really crazy because my desk is where I manage my entire home, 2 businesses, and then also like do all of our like paperwork for our household and stuff like that. So it's just like, it gets a little crazy over here. It's also where I do all of my filming and stuff like that. So sometimes I'm just like shove everything out of the way and just pile it up. But things like that where I'm like, okay, I will, it's like chop wood, carry water sort of vibes, like where if I can't really control anything, okay, like what can I do to like make my task easier moving forward? So I'll make sure like I'm cleaning my altars and make sure like I am, nourishing myself, make sure that my personal energy is not being affected by what's going on externally. So I will, do a spiritual bath. I will do, some smoke cleansing, using Florida water to cleanse my own energy. I will like clean my car. I will do all of these things to kind of be like, okay, I can't get clear on these other areas and the anxiety is not really going to do anything for me long term. So I need to kind of cut it out. I need to do what I can, take care of myself first. So once that is taken care of and a little bit more in order, where I don't feel also overwhelmed by my environment or by my circumstances, then I can get a little bit more of like, okay, now I'm ready to kind of come at it with my guides and be like, okay, I've cleaned out the clutter. I've cleared away my kind of energy that feels unrooted or ungrounded or, kind of unclear. Now I can really truly listen to the messages that you may have for me or the guidance that you have for me as well. So that's when I will start, kind of sitting down, maybe pulling some cards, maybe journaling about what I'm feeling, what I have going on. What are some of the things that feel like limitations or that are bringing up kind of this like sense of fear or a lack of direction? Because I think that's where a lot of us are kind of at with certain elements in our lives, is that maybe we feel like we don't have a lot of control or we don't have a lot of options available to us in a situation. And I know that sometimes that can feel extremely overwhelming when we feel very like cornered in some ways. So I think that having a sense of a quote unquote clarity practice, because I think that's what I'm going to call it today, is really going to be the most beneficial thing you can do for yourself, because it'll allow you to have a sense of, okay, now I see, now I understand, now I can really truly receive guidance in a way without misconstruing things or kind of getting caught up in like my own fears. And I'm saying this as someone that, during the last year, I was in a situation with work where I felt very like a hostage to the environment. And nobody ever wants to feel that way. But then also life is expensive. And so you get used to having some work versus no work. And that was my big thing, is that I'm, at the time I was the only person in my household that was financially supporting us. So it wasn't like a, okay, fuck this job kind of vibe. But I kept missing, I look back at like my weekly, things and the cards I would pull and the information I was getting. And I was like, man, I was willfully like saying, no, it's not that. No, it's not going to be that, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm just being like a weirdo. And even though my intuition was like telling me, one thing, I kept convincing myself that it was another. And that's because I was not allowing myself to see things clearly. I was not allowing myself to see and be receptive and open to the possibility that there was an option that didn't require me to remain where I was. And that's another thing with a clarity practice, is that we also have to be very open to receiving the messages, because you may still receive the message, but if you're not open to the solution being different than what you had anticipated or expected, then you may also miss out on the opportunity to really get out of a space that feels uncomfortable for you. I hope that this makes sense. I know it's a little bit all over the place. As someone that has been doing this a really, really long time and is now into their 40s, I know that when we're in the middle of things, the problem when we're staring at it up close can feel so big. It can feel like a mountain that you have to climb, and it's just going to be so challenging and so difficult. And how am I going to get over it? And what's that going to be like? And so the anticipation of the hardship can be something that really limits us being able to see clearly what the solution may be to the hardship that we're experiencing. And so I hope that you are doing things on a regular basis to kind of get your own personal energy clear first, and to feel a little bit more rooted and grounded in what your intuition is telling you and why it is telling you these things. So I think that's the big thing. And sometimes we're like, my gut's telling me this or whatever, but it's like, I don't really know why. And it can be hard because it's kind of like, well, why am I feeling this way when it feels like it's this, or I'm confused, or blah, 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 blah. So doing some of these things may help you feel a little bit more clear and allow you to really start trusting that more so that you don't get caught up in a situation that maybe is not going to be beneficial for you. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I know this is a little bit different than some of my other Show Me How You Practice videos. Don't worry, I'm going to try to create some really good content for March to kind of keep sharing different things that have helped me along my path with everything that I've learned. Not everything, but a lot of the things that I've learned over the last 25 years. Because, I mean, some stuff you learn it once and you realize it's not really necessary or needed or beneficial to your practice. So I'm not going to show you everything I've learned, but we'll see. Maybe I'll start doing some more witchy kind of active witchcraft kind of videos, brujeria, things of that nature. But I want to say thank you so much for being here. I really hope that this video reaches the people that need to hear it. And I hope that incorporating certain things into your routine can help you feel a little bit more connected to yourself. That's ultimately the goal with everything that I'm trying to share on here, is I want you to feel like you can trust yourself a little bit more. So have a good one. I appreciate you. I hope that February was kind, and I hope that March brings a lot of the changes necessary for you to kind of move into the next thing. So I hope you have a great day. Take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.